not Woodturning, Daddy.
In this video, I'm going to be showing you the latest Creality 3D printer. Spoiler alert, it's awesome. This is the Creality Ender-3 S1 Pro and was sent to me for review by Geekbuying. They've not paid me for this review, but they have sent me the printer. It arrived from the UK warehouse and it arrived next day delivery. Very impressive service and very nicely packaged, as all the Creality stuff seems to be. All custom built foam inserts and no danger of any damage. It was really well packaged. This is the latest top of the range of the Ender-3 series by Creality and has only been available in the UK for about 2 weeks, so I was really pleased to get my hands on one of these. It's got a lot of upgrades over the standard Ender-3, which I've reviewed earlier, or the Ender-3 V2 that I reviewed earlier. This is the new Sprite all metal hot end, which is an extruder and hot end all in one unit. And it's got the new CR Touch auto bed leveling sensor on it. So we start by attaching that to the gantry with 4 little screws. All of the machine screws are really nicely labelled. They're all in individual packets, so you know exactly which screw goes where, and all the Allen keys are supplied. It's got a really nice feel of quality about this. It's got a nice bit of weight to it, and most of it is assembled. There is very little building to do, which makes it ideal for those who don't like building things or perhaps are new to 3D printing. But the instructions are very good. I'm just attaching the gantry here. There's 2 machine screws that you screw in from underneath. There's 2 each side, so it's best doing it off the edge of the table. Very easy. It's all beautifully machined and all goes together nice and square. Very satisfying build. It's then a case of attaching the bracket that holds the touchscreen. The touchscreen is a really nice feature and yeah, very intuitive to use. It's always nice to have a touchscreen. The screen on the Ender-3 V2 was good, but we're all used to touchscreens, so it is better to have one. But that all went together very easily as well. Then it's mounting the filament holder, and attached to the filament holder is a filament runout sensor, which is another new feature. And then it's a case of connecting all the wiring connectors, and they're all labelled. They're all very simple to plug in. You can't plug them in the wrong way round. And here's the wiring loom, and it shows you where to clip that into the gantry. And that is connected onto the Sprite extruder. But it's all very straightforward. You can see the dual drives there. And here I'm just trying out the auto leveling system. It's very good. Saves an awful lot of trouble. I did this as per the instructions, but I then went back and did manual leveling and then used the auto level feature again just to get it all exactly right. Here I'm just adjusting the Z-axis offset, so a piece of A4 paper just slides nicely under the nozzle with a little bit of resistance, just to make sure that's correct. As I say, I did some manual leveling and then redid the auto leveling using the CR Touch. I'm using a sheet of A4 paper and the manual adjustment knobs underneath the bed just to get it level before using the CR Touch again. So we're going to put some filament in. I've just put in the supplied memory card, and it's a full-size SD card. And I'm using this eSun PLA Plus filament, which I'm quite enjoying using. Seems to be very consistent print. So first of all you have to just cut it at an angle, 45-degree angle, and then feed it through the filament sensor. And it's very, very easy to load the filament because of the direct drive extruder. So I've imported one of my skull designs into Cura, and I've just resized it. I'm just altering the settings, which I found best for this filament. And then it's a case of slicing it, which is what it's doing at the moment. You can preview that, and the blue is the support structures that it prints, just so that all the print surfaces are supported as they're printed. It's not trying to print in mid-air. And you can actually go back down through it and see what each slice looks like, and you see the infill pattern inside. So then we have to find our model on the touch screen and hit start, and we're off. And I was really pleased how all this went. You know, it's my first ever print on this, and this was it within a very, very short space of time of opening the box. I was just doing this skirt around, just make sure all the filaments laying correctly. And this was really nice the way it laid this down. It was a lovely first layer, and I think that CR touch makes quite a big difference. So it does this sort of outline skirt, and then it starts the print proper. And it's always good to keep an eye on these first layers, just to make sure it's all going down nice and evenly, and making sure it sticks to the bed. Just remembered there's a light on this printer. There's a new light, sort of a LED bar that's on the gantry, and it's very, very bright, very good. You can see the extruder working away here. And there's that first layer. And it's a really nice first layer. And this new bed on this printer, this PEI bed, it's a flexible steel bed that's held on by a magnetic sheet. Works really well. This is a little while later, and you can see it's gradually building up, and you can see the support structures. Here's a long while later. You can see the support structures inside the skull. Now this is my own design of skull that I sculpted from scratch in Nomad on my iPad. But it's fascinating to watch. You wouldn't want to watch the whole thing though, it takes hours. The printer was very quiet actually. There it is, all done. And really came out very well. That's my first ever print on this printer, and it was just amazing. As you can see, 10 hours to print. I probably should have started with a simple little calibration cube or something, but who dares wins. There you go, 10 hours 21 minutes. And watch this. Just peel it off. Like I said, it's magnetic, quick flex of the bed, and it just lifts off. Glass beds work very well, but items with a large sort of footprint like this one can be quite difficult to get off sometimes. But really pleased with that. Really, really pleased. I then redesigned it a fraction. I changed a couple of things on my design, and I printed out a larger version of it. I found some of the support structures were quite difficult to remove from the nose and things, so I just redesigned it in Nomad a little bit, changed the proportion of it slightly, and I'm just reprinting. I've printed this one on a raft. You see it's on a sort of like a flat bed of PLA. Just as an experiment. I've not really used rafts before because I didn't fancy getting them off the glass bed, but with this flexible bed I thought I'd give it a try. And look at that, it came straight off, and the raft actually peeled off very nicely as well. And there's the finished skull. So after removing all the support structures, the layer adhesion is very, very good with this PLA. In fact, the support structures are quite tenacious to get off. But let's have a look at some of the features. This is the CR Touch on the new Sprite extruder. Well, it's all metal, really nice quality bit of kit, very easy to load the filament. And then going up you can see the light bar there and that filament run out sensor, and that's on this sort of very mobile joint so that it follows the filament as it goes side to side. Full size SD card that goes in upside down in the front there. The full size cards are easier to handle than the mini ones. As I say, we've got this magnetic flexible build plate, PEI build plate, which I've found hasn't missed a beat. It's been brilliant. And the touchscreen, which is a nice touch, if you'll forgive the pun. Dual Z-axis stepper motors, so that Y-axis gantry is supported both sides and is driven both sides, and at the top they're linked by a belt to keep them in sync, which is a brilliant idea. And a really nice big tool drawer that even fits the scraper in. Got a little handle on the front of the build plate, and there's the new light. Really, really nicely designed light. There's a switch on the side. Be good if it could be switched from the touch screen or externally. And here it is next to the Ender-3 V2. They're roughly the same size. The base plate is bigger on the S1 Pro. Overall it is slightly bigger, but the footprint is roughly the same because the bed extends more. And yep, it does fit in the Creality enclosure that the V2 fitted in. It's tight, but it does fit. And here's another skull. This is a simplified version that I've done without so many undercuts and things, which is going to form part of a future video project. So you can see there's another one that I've sliced and printed it on its side, and these are done on rafts as well, but these are for a different project. I then thought, well, now I've got a direct drive extruder, I thought I would try some flexible filament. So it's in the enclosure. I've changed the settings and I'm using some eSun TPU flexible filament. My enclosure's actually got a powerful LED light in it, but the new printer has got this light if you want. And I just did this design on Shaper 3D, which is a recoil pad for a friend's target rifle. So, and that was my first TPU print, and you can see how well that's come out. It's amazing, really, really good, and it's stuck really well to the build plate. And here's a boot I'm designing in Nomad. This is just showing the different stages. It all looks a bit rough at the minute, and gradually I neaten it up, and so it ends up looking like this. But that's I thought I'd do a little flexible print. I actually ended up printing it without the loop on the back. This was going to be a key ring, but I just printed the plain boot. So here I am slicing it in Cura. I'm adjusting the settings for TPU, so upping the temperature of the nozzle, and lowering the temperature of the bed, and lowering the speed as well of the print. I was printing at 20 millimeters per second, nozzle temperature 230, and the build plate I did at 30 degrees. You don't have to heat the build plate at all, but I just didn't want it to be cold. So we then slice it, and then the file is put onto the memory card, and 7 hours later it's done. Here it is, all printed out in flexible filament. And I also did one of my cheese fridge magnets in flexible filament. It's not ultra flexible, this stuff. You can see the support structures are all still in there, and these you have to pick out just using a dental scaler here just to pull those out. And there it is. Yep. Not very bouncy. And here's some other cheeses. Dancing cheese, anyone?
That's a load of rubbish, Daddy.
Well, thank you very much to Geekbuying for sending me the 3D printer. It's the Creality Ender-3 S1 Pro. They haven't paid me to promote it or anything, but they have sent me the printer to try out and show you. It's been really good experience actually. I've really enjoyed using it. It was good delivery from Geekbuying. I think it was next day delivery, and it came from a UK warehouse, which makes a big difference. And it's one of the latest Creality printers. It's only been available here in the UK within the past 2 weeks. It's been fantastic. It's not really, I suppose, classed as a beginner's printer because of the slightly higher price point than the standard Ender-3s, but really it is more suitable as a beginner's printer than they are in many ways because it's so much easier to use. It's got some great new features on it, like the touch screen. We're all used to touch screens these days, so that makes it a lot more, it's a lot easier to use and more intuitive. The build plate, the flexible metal magnetic build plate is fantastic. It's PEI, everything sticks to it beautifully, even the TPU, and everything comes off it very easily because you just flex it and everything pops off. So things like that just make it really easy to use. The CR Touch auto bed leveling as well, a lot easier than manually leveling the bed. You still have to do a bit of manual leveling just to start with, but then the CR Touch does the rest, and it just is so much easier. I really like the light bar they've put in on the printer as well. It works really well. It's very bright and gives a nice even light, and it does make it a lot easier to see what you're printing and how well it's going. My only criticism of that would be I wish you could switch it on either from the touchscreen or externally, so that if you're printing in an enclosure you don't have to open the enclosure to switch it on. But that's a minor thing. It'd be good if they could have built-in Wi-Fi, but they do a separate Wi-Fi unit that you can plug into that. But it worked really well straight out of the box, which always pleases me. I don't like having to fiddle about too much with things to get them working. The only adjustment I had to make was to the eccentric nuts on the build plate platform on the runners that make the build plate slide backwards and forwards, the Y-axis runners. And those eccentric nuts just adjust how tight the wheels press against the extrusions, and you need to adjust them so that there's no wobble, but they're not too tight. And there was just a little bit of wobble straight out of the box, and you just adjust them with the provided spanner. All the others were absolutely fine, but you should check all of those anyway if you're setting up a 3D printer, because it's very rare, I think, that they're all A1 set correctly. The other thing you might have to do is adjust the Z-axis offset for different materials. When I was printing TPU, I had to raise the print nozzle by a fraction. But the accuracy of it has been astounding, and the quality of the prints is amazing. Probably helped by the dual Z-axis motors, so that the gantry is raised from both sides, so it makes it very accurate and smooth. But absolutely amazing quality, really good. That was one of the skulls I designed, and these were slightly modified versions of it. I haven't peeled off the support material yet on these, but these are for a future project. I've got another video planned with these. I don't know when I get some time. But the direct drive, it's got the extruder and the hot end, the nozzle and everything's all built into this new Sprite all metal hot end, and so the extruder goes straight in. It doesn't have to go down a Bowden tube. So you have in the other printers you have the extruder with the Bowden tube going down to the hot end. Well, this is all combined now, which means you can use flexible filaments like TPU, which don't like being pushed down tubes. And so I did have a go with some TPU. This is eSun TPU I bought off Amazon. And it's just brilliant quality, because it's quite difficult to print apparently, but this has come out really well. A little bit stringy on the top, but you would expect that. And I did this boot that I designed, just a little one to start with. There's a couple of layer lines got messed up on that, but that's because I started wood turning halfway through it being printed, and the sharpening machine is on the same workbench as the printer. But it came out very, very well. I started getting a few more zits and stringing on the cheese fridge magnet I printed in TPU, but I think that's because the filament is absorbing water. It's been out in my workshop on the printer for a couple of days, and TPU particularly is very hygroscopic, which means it absorbs water from the atmosphere, and that causes a lot of problems with 3D printers with a lot of different filaments. So I really need to acquire a filament dryer. So that's next on my wish list, is a filament dryer. But all in all, really good experience, really enjoyed using it, highly recommend it, and thanks again to Geekbuying, and I'll put some discount codes and affiliate links in the video description. If you use those, it'd be a great help to me, and the discount codes are really good. They've got some really good introductory offers on this 3D printer on Geekbuying at the minute. Anyway, I'll be back soon with some more videos. There's a couple of stills of this TPU that I printed. Yeah, very, very happy with that. And don't forget to check out those links and discount codes in the video description.
Please like, share and subscribe. My daddy needs all the help he can get. More rubbish coming soon.